I want to thank you all so much for joining us here. My name is Angela Rose, and I'm the founder of PAVE, Promoting Awareness, Victim Empowerment. PAVE works across the country and abroad. We're a movement to help end sexual violence and help survivors to thrive after trauma. We do take a really positive and proactive approach. We know that everybody knows somebody who has been through something. So I always like to start by saying that this right here, we are creating a safe space because every single one of us personally knows somebody who's been impacted by trauma. I'm so passionate because this week is the Teen Survivors Week of Action. And I myself started PAVE after my own experience of sexual assault at the age of 17. So I became very passionate about this. We have some incredible panelists from all over the country that have all experienced sexual assault that were high school survivors. And I want to also let you know we will be taking time for some Q&A at the end if you would like. So just keep that in mind. You can raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute you at the end during Q&A if that's something you're interested in. And so with no further ado, I will turn this over to Delaney Henderson, who herself has an incredible survivor story. And Delaney, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to everybody watching. And I thank you all so much for joining us.
Hello, my name is Delaney Henderson. I've been a PAVE ambassador and speaker for about 10 years now. It's crazy it's been that long, but I've worked on so many different projects and different panels and had such a great experience working with PAVE, and I'm so honored to be here. So I would love to kind of just get the ball rolling here, and we can start with Jean if you'd like to jump in, Jean. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We'd love to hear kind of where you started, where you're at, and a little bit about your story if you would be so kind to share.
Okay, so my name is Jean Ruggiero. I'm 25 years old and I'm from Connecticut. So currently, right now, I'm an MSW student at Quinnipiac University, and I've been involved with PAVE for 8 years now. I am a high school sexual assault survivor, and throughout the years, PAVE has helped me find my voice. I am also a member of the LGBT community and have faced sexual violence in relation to that as well. I aim to become a clinical social worker and to continue working with survivors of assault to find their purpose through healing and advocacy and connecting with other survivors.
It's amazing, Jean. Thank you so much for sharing. Tell us, so what has helped you like most heal as a survivor, either during the experience itself or afterwards?
I think when I went through everything, I was only 17 and I felt so alone. I didn't think anyone understood what I was going through. So when I first reached out to PAVE, everything changed for me. So the first survivor I talked to was you. And the first thing that you said to me was this: from this moment on, you will never feel alone on your journey again. And this changed me because for the first time since my assault, I felt heard. Delaney and Angela became a good support system to me and helped me become homeschooled my last few months of my senior year of high school. When I graduated, I felt free and like I could leave that chapter behind me. I then flew out to Washington, D.C., and finally met Angela and Delaney for the first time. It felt empowering to finally be with other survivors and not feel alone on this journey.
Ooh, you made me tear up a little bit. Okay, so that's amazing. Wow, I honestly I remember that entire experience with you, and it's just so amazing to see how far you've come, Jean. So, next question. If you told an adult, how did they react at the time, and how did you or how do you wish they would have reacted if they reacted in a way that you would have changed in the past?
So when I first reached out about my assault, I first kept it to myself for a bit because I wasn't sure if like what was happening or if anyone was going to believe me. But the first teacher that I reached out to told me that she didn't want to hear any more about it and I should just go to the guidance counselor. So it made me feel like this was not really an issue and that what I felt like didn't matter. After that, I didn't reach out to anyone for a few more weeks. I told another teacher because she saw me breaking down and crying, and then the principal had me go to the police. When I went to the police, I felt blamed, and they told me, well, weren't you dating him? It's not sexual assault if you were dating him. This made me feel like it was my fault, and after a few days, I got called back to the police station where I was told it was consensual because I was dating him. Following the assault, I had to go back to school with my perpetrator, and I did not feel protected by my school. They did nothing to protect me, and the kids at school bullied me as a result. I felt unsupported by the adults around me, but having Angela and Delaney's support helped. I wish more adults were like that and had the training they needed to understand how to help a survivor. All I needed to know was that I was heard and not alone, but my high school failed me with that.
Wow, it's a powerful statement. Okay, so what do you do for yourself, nowadays, just for like self-care time, for taking care of yourself now in these days?
So I believe that self-care is very important to a survivor's healing. The journey through sexual assault can be very debilitating, so self-care is crucial. So I'm a big animal lover, and I find animals to be the most effective healing for me. I have a dog, his name is Boo Boo, and he has helped me heal drastically. I'm currently working on a children's book about Boo Boo that is about healing trauma through animal therapy. I also find nature walks with Boo Boo, writing poetry, skateboarding, photography, and music helpful.
Yeah, I'm the same way. To be honest with you, I have my dog sitting right next to me, so I completely understand that. All right, so how did getting involved, like in the survivor community, help you being a survivor, just in general?
So I'd say being involved in a survivor community means everything to being a survivor. After you told me that I would never feel alone on my journey, it kickstarted my activism. So I want all other survivors to understand that they are never alone on their journey too. The moment I started reaching out, I felt less alone. Although some people may not be helpful to talk to, I want to foster a positive survivor community. PAVE is a safe community, and I want other survivors to use the resources and support we provide.
It's amazing. What advice do you have for other teen survivors?
So I would like to leave this question with a quote that I wrote when I was going through my own survivor journey. The pain we have felt is immense, but the power we can form together is unbreakable. Survivors have power in numbers. And although what we all went through is a painful experience, we can speak out and be a voice to those who may feel alone. Survivors watching, you are never alone on your journey. If anyone else feels alone, do not be afraid to reach out for help. If you need anything, I would also be open to a conversation through the PAVE page.
Wow, you continue to blow me away, Jean. You're the way you speak is so profound. You're gonna help so many people. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. So what about Nicole? Can we scoot over to you, Nicole? I'd really love for you to tell us about yourself and kind of share your story if you're open to it.
Yeah, so my name's Nicole. I'm 24. I live in Oregon. I grew up playing volleyball for like 12 years of high school and club volleyball. And now I currently coach a 12U club volleyball team to keep myself in that love for the sport. And I work full time at a women's health clinic as a patient care coordinator. So working directly with women every day has been very empowering for me.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. What has helped you heal as a survivor, either during or after the experience that happened to you?
So kind of similar to Jean, I kept it to myself for 6 months. I was very quiet. It felt as though it was something that I should be ashamed of, and then quickly learned that it was not my fault. I found a lot of strength in reading other stories. Chessie is a big one, and most recently, Maggie Nichols' story, documentaries, and also once I came to the point of learning about PAVE and seeing how I could share my voice, that has helped me more than anything. I think that there's strength in numbers and hearing and sharing.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right, if you told an adult about your situation, how did they react, and how do you wish that they reacted?
I was very lucky in having adults that instantly believed me. And when I did hold it in for so long, for those 6 months, because I did feel ashamed, the first adult that I told was my mom, and she was the most supportive that any parent could have been in that situation. She jumped right into action, probably a little bit sooner than I wanted, but she was went right into it with, getting officers involved, reporting, lawyers, all of that. And then again, I was lucky enough to also have a detective on my case who the first words that came out of his mouth were, "I believe you." So I have had a lot of adults in my life that I got lucky, I think, really, because it is very rare to have that much instant support, and I don't take that for granted at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. My parents did the same thing. They jumped into action. I
Yes.
can tell you it was the most insane feeling of having your parents just like care about you so much and jump into action and kind of take over and things
Yes.
like that. So I completely understand that. What do you do for self-care? Just in general sense, like what do you do when you need some self-care?
I am a person that needs my alone time sometimes. And when I need my alone time, I'm going to be alone, but I usually have a book. I do like to paint. So I'll paint. Reading has really been something that I think just helps me because it kind of gets me out of my space of this world and puts me, somewhere else. Movies are a big thing for me as well. So just kind of finding a space to where I can kind of jump out of what feels like reality for just a moment and finding space somewhere else.
Yeah, that's amazing. I did the same thing, especially like immediately after everything happened to me. I found painting to be like so helpful.
I'm not very good at it, but I'll do it.
You don't have to be, honestly. It kind of helps to just get it out sometimes, and it doesn't have to always be the perfect Picasso painting, but
Yeah.
sometimes I find it still, even to this day, it helps me a lot too. How did getting involved in like the survivor community help you just being a survivor?
I would say that, when I first found out about PAVE, I was 17, still hadn't disclosed my story. And I found that through the documentary Audrey and Daisy. And Delaney, you are also a huge part of my story. That documentary quite literally saved my life. My mom, when I had told her about my story, I had her sit down and watch that with me. And she found Angela and she got me connected, and it helped me just come to a place where I had heard other people's stories, and it was like, oh, so this isn't something that, just happens in movies and TV shows. This is something that actually happens to people, and it's not just me. I found a way to take something, so ugly and traumatic and make it beautiful in the way of outreaching and sharing. I was lucky enough, Angela invited me to a benefit concert in Chicago, and that's where I first met her and was able to speak on a stage for PAVE. And her doing that just lit this fire underneath me, and it made me want to go and help people and anybody that I could. Every year on my survivor versary is what I call it, I share my story again and again. And every year I at least get somebody who, wants to share their story with me. And that keeps me going, that I can kind of return that favor that others gave to me without even knowing it.
It's a powerful feeling. Even now, I'm just like, all right, was not ready for that. Man, that's amazing. I love that so much. All right. So what advice do you have for other teen survivors?
I would say be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself, because we are our own worst critics in that moment. And I remember constantly beating myself up and, feeling bad about myself and insecure in those ways. And I think that every survivor, I feel like, can say that one of those feelings that they felt first was shame and guilt. And, you're not alone. It was not your fault. And there are strengths in overcoming, and you might not feel it right now, but at some point down that road, you're going to feel that feeling of overcoming and that power that it's going to bring you and the strength that it's going to bring you. I do believe as well in not sharing your story until you are ready to. I don't think that you should feel forced to share that if you're not ready. That time will come and it might not, but I do also want those people that are not able to or don't have that strength yet, that you are still valid and you're still heard. And just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think that's like a profound statement for sure. I think that even with like my experience, for sure, I struggled a lot with that shame and that guilt that you were talking about, and it really took me like talking to, Angela first and foremost, and then meeting Daisy and just like hearing other experiences and similar stories, and then meeting Jean, and just like surrounding myself with people that understood like what I was physically feeling and how down I was on some days and then happy I was on some days. And it was just kind of like a flip-flop effect of always constantly feeling something or another. And then understanding that that was normal and that was okay. And that some days you're going to be super happy and feel like empowered and great and fine and fantastic. And then other days, even to this day, even other days, I'm just like, wow, like, no, I'm not feeling the best or I'm not feeling the greatest. And I have those conversations with, people like Angela and just other survivors that I've met along the journey. And I think that that's helped me a lot too, is just being able to have that experience and share that experience with somebody else. But especially what you were saying, especially when you're ready. I think that's so important for sure. Thank you for sharing that with me. That literally just like, that just like, where were we? I don't even
What day is
it was just
it?
amazing.
No, of course. Well, thank you.
I appreciate you sharing all of that with us so much. Lee, if you're open to it, I would love to ask you some questions and hear kind of your story and tell us a little bit about yourself if you're open for it.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Leasia, but I go by Lee for short. My mom added so many letters, so it's just a lot. So I go by Lee for short. I'm 19. I'm a survivor, but I'm also a survivor of sexual abuse in my childhood. Please excuse if I get emotional. Oh, sorry happening. What do I do? What do I do? I love my dog. I got a dog and I turned like 17,
What
16.
kind of dog do you have?
She's a Yorkie Poo. She is 2 years old. She's 10 pounds. She recently had a baby. Only one. We named her, came up with that name. Me and my grandpa tried to like mix our names into the mix. She just laughed at us. She's like, "Oh, that's not happening." Maybe oh, have a, I realized what just having pets really helps a survivor. I was like, okay, let me beg my mom to give me a pet, and eventually it worked. So yeah, she's the light of my life. I wish she was in here right now, but she and her baby and the other dog, too much of a hassle to do. But yeah, they're amazing. So yeah.
That's awesome. So what has helped you heal most as a survivor, either during or after what happened to you?
Just for me, I never realized what happened to me until I was 15. And right after I turned 15, my mental well being, full transparency, my mental well being was just terrible. I got admitted to a psych hospital, and unfortunately, I got assaulted there. And when I went out back to high school, I got assaulted again. I tried to report it. It's never, it never goes well. It never is. I feel like it's such a rocky situation, but just as a survivor, what has helped me, I thought disclosing the information would, but just uplifting other people, hearing about other people's stories really helped me. And I realized what happened to me that same night. I told a close friend, my childhood best friend. She told me to tell my mom. I told my mom it wasn't the best decision. Like, people are really different when it comes to disclosing traumatic information. That's something that I do understand now and something
Yeah.
that I'm aware of. But just basically what has helped me as a survivor is just uplifting other people, hearing other people's stories. Ever since I was 15, I've joined international Zoom meetings every Thursday, Tuesday. I hear other women that are just like older than me, they're in their 60s and 50s. They tell me that I'm wiser than them, and it makes me cry. This will never ever get numb to me. I'll always cry. But just hearing other people, a survivor that really helped me that was mentioned earlier, her name is Chessie Prout. I disclosed my information to my story to a librarian at my school when like my traumatic experience at school happened, and I told her every single thing that's ever happened to me, sexual trauma wise, and she showed me Chessie's book. I read it. It was the fastest book I've ever finished. I bought it for my birthday when I turned 16. And I bought her audiobook as well, and that really helped me. I would go around school just hearing her voice. It just felt like a hug. Not too long after I found out about the organization, I had the right to follow their Instagram. Just try to stay involved as much as I could. I met so many amazing people. The co-founder, her name is Susan Prout, Jesse's mom. I met her virtually. We're friends now. She's amazing. She's really helped me so much. So relax. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just by just Susan herself, just been so uplifting. Believe me, every time I just need to tell her anything about my life. uplifted me in any way she can. Just being a phone call away really helped me. I had the most amazing opportunity by meeting Jessie Prout. She virtually, we're in this world now. She had a short film uh, not too long ago, and she was a panelist, and I just shared my story. Like, it was like 300 people in the Zoom, and it just felt like it was only us, and it was just the most amazing opportunity. I still tell my grandparents about, like, to this day, like, I can't believe I met her, like, like, I'm sorry, but like,
She's amazing.
oh yeah, it just felt like a hug. So she's just super. It was just really a validating experience. I would say a person in particular that has helped me as a survivor is Miss Susan. Definitely, yeah.
They're very close friends of mine, so I completely understand. I totally understand that. I think that's amazing. I question if you told, so during your experience, and you don't have to answer this if you want to skip the question, feel free, but if you told an adult, how did they react to what you disclosed to them, and how do you wish that they would have reacted at the time?
Okay, I told my mom because my first ever abuser slash perpetrator was my younger sister's dad, and I would see him all the time, every day. So it was super scary to tell her. I was hyperventilating. She just made me spill out my guts. I know I wasn't ready to, but but like once I told her, she immediately wanted to press charges, stop letting my sister's dad come around and all that, which I fully did want, but I felt so guilty because that's my sister's dad, and my sister doesn't need. She's too young to even understand what's going on, and she's a daddy's girl at that. So I didn't want to like turn her whole world into dust and like just make everything worse. So a little bit after that, I don't know. She changed in like the next day. It's like she wasn't the supportive person that I needed at the time, and she still isn't, which is okay. I've learned to accept. But one thing that I wish that she would have let me done was to go at everything at my own pace.
Yeah.
Everything was so rushed, and because I was so young, like I didn't have tools to control the situation, and I still feel like I would never have. But I just wish I had time to just tell her and just stop everything for a second for her not to disclose the information to my abuser, because that just made everything worse. I just wish I just had control over her actions, if that makes sense, because that really helped. That would really help. That would have really helped me, yeah, personally. Yeah.
Something I've learned through PAVE is that the first person that you disclose to has profoundly the greatest impact on your entire healing process. Even for me, like the first person that I told after what had happened to me was my best friend in the whole world. And I still to this day remember her reaction was just like disappointment. And it was basically like, wow, you're going down like this bad path. And I still remember just like sitting at the table. I was 16. I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't even know what to call what had happened to me. And I still remember just like sitting there and thinking, she's right. I'm just becoming like this crazy party girl. I can't believe I even like allowed this to happen. And to this day, looking back on it, I've learned, I've grown, I've joined PAVE. I understand the thought processes. And like, I also understand that I can't blame her for reacting that way because she also didn't have the tools for knowing how to respond. So
Yeah.
like for me, when I'm speaking with PAVE and I'm talking to other survivors, like the biggest thing that I push is just teaching allies and people who get disclosed to how to respond to the survivor, because that just, especially for me and especially for survivors I've met, that makes the greatest impact. And if that person responds appropriately and allows the power to be given back to that survivor, given back to you, it can completely change the entire trajectory of how you heal and how quickly you heal and how you look at the situation as a whole. So I think that's, you brought up a great point. Like it's difficult, especially with parents. Like my parents, they had no idea how to handle the situation, and they still struggle with it sometimes. And even the police officers that I reported to, they asked me questions that I wasn't prepared to answer as a 16-year-old kid. I had no idea how to respond. And I think that, I think it's so important just to train others and to really teach and really push to show the appropriate responses for when you get disclosed to. I think that's so profoundly important for sure.
Another thing that I would like love to add, like I feel like I put myself in my mom's shoes like so many times. I just run back through like when I told her. I feel like just as a person, I don't know. It should be like just human decency. I don't know. That's what I feel like, just personally. Because that really truly like her response impacted me in the ways that I would never forgive her for or never forget. But like I'm glad I have a community, now. But yeah, like you said, that really changes how you go along with your trauma and just your story in general. So yeah.
Absolutely. I've seen it happen both ways. I've seen people react to a survivor disclosing to them and react the appropriate way and really ask the survivor, what do you want to do? What would make you feel safe again? And I've also seen it in the complete opposite way. And so I think it's such an impact that it makes. And I think that we oftentimes forget that. So I definitely completely understand. What do you do for your self-care nowadays? What do you do to help yourself self-care?
In a lot of ways, I just I gained back my childhood. I watch old cartoons that I was interested in. I put in my pup. I've always wanted pets growing up. And just staying on top of the legal system. As soon as I turned 18, like within my birthday week, I reported what happened to me. And the justice system isn't really, it's terrible. But I've just been emailing my detective every month just about new updates. What can we do to make this process faster for me? And I just try to remember that healing isn't linear. For full transparency, I have bad days every day. For me, personally, there's never a good day. I always text my therapist. I always say really good affirmations to myself. I read books, memoirs about other survivors versus other survivor. Her name is Chanel Miller. She's
Mhm.
really cool. She recently came out with her first debut children's book today, actually. So I pre-ordered it, so I can't wait to read it. I have a lot of children's books that I wish I've had when I was younger. I bought them all this past week, and they just came 2 days. So I'm just gaining back my childhood. Honestly, it's really helped me, and just staying in touch with my sister. She's helped me in ways that I've never thought possible. And she's only 9. So she helps me so much. And I do teach her about consent, even like the kid version. Hey, if somebody, wants to give you a hug, you don't have to do that. She knows.
Good.
She never hesitates without anything. So I love her a lot. She's truly saved my life in many ways that she would ever I don't think she'll even understand. But yeah, I just called her earlier today and told her about the meeting. So she said, good luck on that. I was like, thank you. I love her. She's amazing. But yeah, just going back to my childhood has really helped me, honestly.
What advice do you have for other teen survivors?
Um, Healing isn't linear, but that doesn't mean you should like give up entirely. I've given up so many times, more than I can even count. Like 2 weeks ago. I was about to like quit my job and just isolate myself and my accent just came out. I was about to just like isolate myself and just stay to myself. It was terrible, but I'm okay now. All good. I would say healing isn't linear. Please be patient. I know personally I'm not a patient person and I hate this process more than the next survivor. Genuinely, I can't stand this. I really can't. But please be patient if you can. Please reach out to people that will wholeheartedly support you. If you can't find that, I would say I just go through branches of media that will have my same story. Like for example, Law and Order SVU. I watch it all the time just for me to gain my justice. Like the main character Olivia Benson, she fights so hard for the people. I just imagine myself being in that courtroom, getting the justice that I deserve so long ago. That's about it, honestly.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing. You made an impact already. So I appreciate you sharing so much. And so heartfelt, really deep conversations need to be had. And I think you definitely hit on every part of that.
Thank
So
you
thank
so
you.
much.
All right, Osito, if we can switch over to you, I'd love to ask you some of the same questions if your camera's working. I'm not sure if it's not or if it is or not.
Yeah, my camera's working.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name's Osito. I'm 15 years old. Going through high school right now. Just trying to do the best in my life. Just trying to heal after what happened to me during the coronavirus pandemic and the all the experiences that's happened to me and how I'll only be able to live with one parent now. But, throughout it, my mom's been a great support. She's my best friend. I love my mom so much. She's been there for me my whole life. And I don't know if I'd be here without her, without my mom. And yeah, I've just, I'm just a regular teenager. I mean, who's been through some trauma. Like we're we're just like I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it, but we're 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 like everyone else, like the trauma doesn't define us. We still go out. um I still talk to my friends at school. We're just I still play games. It's That's just me. I'm a teenager who's been through some trauma. I hope I answered your question well. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. What has helped you like heal most as a survivor, either during the experience or afterwards?
Well, I mean, talking to my mom has helped. She's been very supportive. She believes me no matter what. And my grandma as well. Just taking some time for self-care, like playing with my cat, playing video games, just making some jokes with my friends at school. They've always looked out for me. They've
Good.
always been there for me. And like just sharing when I'm ready. Because sometimes when I share my experience, I get really anxious. And like I get really anxious leading up to me sharing it. So only sharing my experience when I want to, has also helped as well. And, just think like, just trying to move past the trauma and socialize, play like just go out with friends, play video games, work out, do like stay on top of my schoolwork. That's helped me move past my trauma because it helps me move forward in life, doing everyday tasks
Right.
that I'm supposed to do every day.
Yeah, of course. If you told an adult, during or after your situation, how did they react and how do you wish they would have reacted?
Well, the first person I told was a school psychologist. She was great. She referred me to the appropriate resources. She validated me, says that what happened to me wasn't okay, and that she would take the steps to report it. Because originally I did really want to report it to somebody, and I had another case with a detective that was pending. So when I met with the detective, I disclosed this case to him, and he said he would do something, but he never ended up doing anything. So it made it felt like what happened to me like didn't really count, as an assault or you know as a crime in general. If it felt like that experience, that it wasn't really important. It made me feel like they weren't listening to me. But eventually I got hospitalized in River Edge Hospital because I was thinking about killing myself, and I disclosed it to a intake worker that was there, and they sent it over to DCFS, and I disclosed to the DCFS worker, and I mean I understand that DCFS it's not a perfect system. There's a lot of faults in there, but I felt they were being dismissive of me, but they did take my report, and it did move forward to the police. Then they closed my case. The police just closed my case without notifying me. And I spoke at City Hall about it. And then I was able to sit down with two detectives and they and talk to them more. about why my case was closed. So overall, a lot of adults, they were supportive of me. They, talked through with me about it. They followed up with me afterwards. But other adults, it was like I wish they would have talked to me more, and you know like just just explain things to me more, when it comes to legal system, and just following up with me more.
Yeah.
And that's what I wished, people would have reacted to it, like, just so it feels like they care about me. I wish, like, yeah, that people would have explained things to me more and just followed up with me more.
Okay. What do you do for self-care for yourself?
For self-care, I try to do my best to go out with friends, you know, just making,
Good.
just laughing with them, talking about life with them. It helps a lot because it kind of brings me back my childhood, because I can forget about everything for those few moments and really just unwind, because it feels like trauma. Like, I don't mean like to say this and like this will fix everything, but in a certain way, at least for me, it makes the trauma, like disappear for even for just a few moments. It helps a lot. And it makes me feel like I'm a kid again, which really helps me with my depression, and it helps my anxiety as well. Um, and also self-care, working out, I'd say it's very important, because it lets out positive chemicals in your body, which also increases self-esteem. So that's definitely important. And just not giving up, because the second we fail is the second we give up, and we refuse to fail, right? We won't give up. We just have to have that mindset of never giving up, because that's that's how we succeed. And just having that mindset helps, along with just getting through everything day by day, because some days, I'll be really anxious, I'll be thinking about harming myself, I'll be I'll struggle to get out of bed. But other days, I get so much done, I'm really productive, I get all my schoolwork done. So it really just taking it day by day helps me as well.
Do you think being involved in like the survivor community has helped you as well? I mean, you kind of briefed on that just in general. Do you think that's helped you as a survivor?
Well, to be honest, I mean, it helps me disclose like things that have happened to me, whether it be domestic violence, whether it be sexual assault. It helps me, like, have an outlet for somebody, and people I know that will be supportive as well. And that really does help, because it helps everyone see that they're not alone, and
Yeah.
that we're all going through something, and that no matter what, you'll somebody will always be there for you. And that really helps a lot. But sometimes, you know just feel anxious, talking about what happened to me. But it depends, because some days you feel like you're ready to participate, you're ready to make that disclosure. But other days it feels like, you just want to kind of keep things to yourself,
Well,
because
totally
yeah,
understand.
sorry, but yeah, that's how. I mean, overall, it's been a positive experience. I've got to meet a lot of amazing people, and I've been able to kind of, vent in a way of, the trauma that's happened to me. So I'd say it's definitely been a positive experience for sure.
Good. What advice do you have for other teen survivors?
I'd say for anyone watching this, just know that trauma doesn't define you, you know, because we're all survivors. We survived through something. That something doesn't have to define us, because we're we're bigger. We're bigger than what happens to us, because it it helps build. Like, I don't want to come off the wrong way, but it like we wouldn't be who we are, without the events that have happened to us, and it helps build our resilience. Everything, the saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I think it's true, because every day you're getting stronger, and when you go through something, and I'd say keeping that mindset of you're stronger than your abuser, you're more than the trauma you went through. I think that just remembering that every day helps. It helps a lot. And just remembering that you can make it through anything, because we as humans, we we are very resilient. We have many different abilities that, you know because that's how we're all here today. We have different abilities that make us stronger, that help us get through challenging times in our lives. And I think just keeping that in mind, that we are all strong in our own ways, and that we're stronger than our abusers, and that we're more than what happened to us. I think keeping that in mind really helps, along with self care and just enjoying life, and trying to, and like doing things like outside of school, with friends, and I think that really helps with healing.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's so helpful. I know you're going to help so many other young men and women. I cannot thank you enough. To Nicole, Jean, Osito, Lee, thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. I'm already, was not prepared for all of that, but I cannot thank you guys enough for coming and just being so vulnerable and answering these questions with such grace. And you just sound so profound and so amazing. So thank you again so much for being here. For sure.
And Delaney, thank you so much for being our wonderful moderator. I do want to open it up for questions. If there's anybody in the attendees that want to ask Delaney or any of our wonderful panelists anything, now is the time. You can raise your hand and I can unmute you. In the meantime, I would love to ask a question. I heard some really great nuggets of information today that I really resonated with. Lee, I thought it was really profound how you are doing things to reclaim your innocence. In your childhood and things like that. That was such a really cool thing, that you are able to like watch these cartoons and these books, like you are consciously doing things to try and kind of relive that. And I thought that was so beautiful. Osito, I loved when you talked about how we are bigger than our trauma, and really resonated too with like, sometimes we just want to be a teen again. I mean, when that happened to me at 17, we don't want to talk about it all the time. Sometimes we just want to be normal. So I totally get that. And I really respected that. Jean and Nicole, both of you, I've worked with you for so many years. Just to see what you've done with your life has just been so incredible. And I'm so proud of both of you. And I really think that this conversation is going to help so many teens, because we do feel alone when we go through a lot of these things. It feels very isolating as a teenager, like you don't want to be different. And so when things like this happen to us and we go through trauma, oftentimes we do feel very isolated, and that oftentimes we're made to feel like it's our fault. And so I think a lot of the speakers today touched on the fact that it is not your fault if you've been through trauma. You are not alone, because I truly believe if you look at the statistics, and when we do our high school presentations, everybody knows somebody who's been through something, whatever kind of trauma that is, whether it be dating violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault. There's just so many different traumas. And there's, all of us are linked together. And if we all were just kinder to each other. So I really appreciate it. I know it takes a lot of courage to come out and speak about these things. And Delaney, I've always been in awe of you since you were 17, and to see what you've done with your life is a constant inspiration to me as well. So would love to open it up to any questions, or if any of you want to ask each other any questions. Does anyone have any questions for each other? I'd love to talk about mandate reporting really quickly if no one has a question, if I could just jump in. What are your thoughts, Lee? I'd love to start with you. Like, what are your thoughts on mandate reporting? Because maybe
Um,
people don't realize that in high school, teachers are mandate reporters.
I had an assault happen to me in school. It was mandated reported to admin, and I was told to give a statement of what happened to me, and the person didn't even really serve a consequence. We still were in the same class. They were told not to make contact with me, and they still did. It was like really frustrating because I still bravely went to admin and let them know, hey, he's still making these same comments at me. He's still looking at me. I'm really scared to even like go to math class. Like, and this is the class I have to attend in order to graduate. And they're like, well, just ignore him, or you can change classes if you want. We can't do anything about his situation. We were in the same boat, kind of. If I can, I really, I'm not sure how to explain it, but I'm a special education student. He was as well, but I still would say that doesn't excuse him from what he did to me. With all like open eyes, everybody saw what happened to me. It doesn't really excuse what happened, but they use that a lot towards me as if I wasn't a special education student as well. We had the same case manager. It was really rocky, but I left that class to go to another class because it was too much. I was really depressed. I don't know what's going, but I think what mandated reporting just basically is personally, not in general. It's just for me, it wasn't the best because I thought these adults, I guess, were trained on what to do or just knew how to treat it, just know how to treat a person like me or a survivor like me. It's like, saying to someone, hey, I cut my knee. Can I go to the nurse? You didn't cut your knee. Not bleeding, but I'm bleeding. I have a scab. Can I please go to the nurse? No, you're fine. Stay there. And you're just like nipping for like 2 months straight. It's just the whole thing with me, it was just super frustrating. And I was told repeatedly they did the best that they could do, but there's nothing else they could do about it. So it wasn't good, in my opinion. But I would say more training would definitely help. And it's not even training, in my opinion. My opinion personally, it's just treating a person with human decency. I told them repeatedly what I needed from them. They didn't give me the resources. They gave someone else that more than me. I felt super unimportant and it was super dehumanizing as the person. School was a safe space for me, opposed to my home because it was happening to me at home. And my world just crumbled when it happened to me, honestly. But yeah. And their reporting was not best in my opinion because I had no control over the situation. I know it needed to happen. I made my voice heard. It still didn't really help, honestly. But I guess that would be about it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so important. And I'd love to ask Delaney a question because we're kind of talking about in schools, what schools can do better. I know that Delaney, knowing her story, she suffered a lot of bullying after what happened to her. And Delaney, I'd love for you to speak to that, maybe what you wish would have been done differently, or maybe you can just tell folks that maybe don't know that part of your story.
Yeah, of course. I when my parents found out, the first people that they told were after some back and forth with me not wanting to report it to the police, because I still had to go to school with the two boys that did it to me. And so they immediately went to the principal. And from there, it trickled down because I went to a private Catholic high school. So they told like the top four people at the high school. And they came up with like a game plan. And it was similar to your situation, Lee, where it was, they would come up with these like course plans of my classes where I wouldn't have to pass them. But it's a small school. There was 80 kids in my graduating class. Like there was no way to actually avoid it. And I think that really escalated and hyped up the ability for the bullying to begin, which I think for me personally was the far worse in my situation than the actual event itself. Because it was like constantly reliving the trauma that I had gone through and then constant torment afterwards. And there was no real officials who would step in and be able to actually take action. And I think that was the biggest part for me, that it was just constantly refacing the same trauma that I had gone through. And then on top of that, it was the retaliatory, violence and constant name calling and things like that when I would walk through the high school and those classes. And I think that that had more of a traumatic effect on me personally than even just when I was sexually assaulted, because I think it really hindered the way that I thought the situation happened. It really hindered the way that I remembered it. It really hindered the way that I was healing. And so I think it's so important to really, kind of hone in and focus on the aftermath of everything, not just the event itself, because I think that that has a huge impact on just your healing process in general.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that was a really tough experience for you. So, does anyone else have any questions for each other or any final thoughts? I know we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to give an opportunity for any questions or any final thoughts.
I have a question. If that's
I have
okay. How do, like, just in general question, if just anyone wants to answer, how do you get through this? I know it's never easy, and it's a super personalized question. Every survivor isn't the same, and every sexual violence experience isn't universal. We all don't know what we've all been through. But for me, I'm so stuck in this cycle of anger and just depression, full transparency. And it never seems to get okay, no matter how much I advocate for myself and other survivors. It's just an endless cycle of me being stuck in that aftermath process. Like, it's just my memory is so clouded, can't get over, not get over, get through what happened to me, basically. It's super hard, honestly. I just want to know what helps other survivors, especially with this aftermath effect. I still feel like I'm just in the early stages of realizing what happened to me, having nightmares, PTSD. Ugh, it's just a lot, a lot that goes with it. But yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever, first of all, thank you so much for sharing. I think a lot of us can relate certainly to everything that you're going through. And what really helped me was finding a great trauma therapist. And I did what's called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's because when we go through these really traumatic experiences, they get stuck in our brain. And so when things like trigger us, or we have those nightmares or those flashbacks, and you're constantly living in this heightened state of arousal, it's exhausting. I'm sure a lot of us can can relate. And so I did a treatment called EMDR that really helped to kind of reset and create those new pathways. So that was very helpful for me. Would love to hear.
Daisy and I both did that too. Just for the record, we both did it kind of at the same time. It was after Angela, you said to do it. And Daisy and I both started going to this therapist, and she went to a different one than I did, but we were doing it simultaneously pretty much. And it really, I'll be honest with you, for both her and I both, it was like a game changer. Like, for the first time in my entire life, and the best way I can describe it is, it was like I had removed myself from the situation emotionally. And it was like, anytime even to this day, when I like think about what happened to me, it's like I'm watching a movie, not it happening to me. And Daisy said the same thing. Like, it's like we could physically like see what was going on. It's not like we forgot. It's not, you're not being hypnotized. It's nothing like that, but you can take the emotion out of it and see it for what it is, and reprocess the way that your brain like goes through that trauma. And since the day that I started doing that, I did it like, I think 5 times maybe total over the course of the last 10 years now. For her and I both, it was completely 100% what was like the turning point for us. And I still remember being on a phone call with her, and she was just like, it's like I see it for what it is. It was the only way to describe it, but it's like we see it for what it is, but we're emotionally detached to a certain extent, right? Like, of course, it's always going to be emotional thinking back, but we can also look at it as like, this happened, but I'm watching it on a screen from like basically the corner of the room. I can see what's happening. I remember every detail. It's not like I forgot anything, but I can see it for what it is, and I can emotionally remove myself from being so impacted every time I think about it. So that, for me, truthfully, like, not that it helped me get through anything, it just helped me reprocess the way that I would look at what happened to me. That's what I would suggest, to be honest.
I did hear of MDR. I'm currently with my therapist right now, but we don't see each other as much as I want to. She lived in the same city as my mom did, but I still love her to death. She's amazing. So we chat virtually, but I'm going to see her someday next week. And I can introduce it to her, but she might not be licensed enough to discuss it or just work with that with me. But when I leave for college, already looked into therapists that are recommended throughout the school. We have therapy sessions for like 20 times a month or something like that. So every other week I could go for free. It's really cool. They have so many resources. And yeah, I told my therapist about potentially leaving her. I have to do that, unfortunately. And doing MDR therapy was introduced to me when I was watching the newest episode of Law and Order SVU. It helped another survivor on TV, and I was like, whoa. Girl was like, that can help you, Lee. And I was like, I think so, but I don't know really how to do it. So we just got in contact with people from the university that I'm going to about it. So yeah, I'm definitely working on it, but not actively, not right now, because I'm still with my therapist. So yeah.
And it could be an add-on. If you have a great therapist, you can keep her and then find a trauma therapist that's EMDR. So we'll talk afterwards and I'll see if I'll send you some websites and some information about that. But I think that's a great question. Nicole, Jean, or Cito, do you want to answer that at all?
I mean, in my opinion, like just working with the therapist, one step at a time, I think that could really help because, you know, because I mean, I'm not sure if it applies, like if there's the same experience you have, but for me, like I wasn't initially comfortable, like, or I wasn't even sure if my therapist would be comfortable with, me disclosing some of the things that happened to me. But it's just one step at a time, in my opinion. Um, well, working with therapists because it's like it's like a relationship. It's one step at a time. If yeah, it's one step at a time. To be honest, and yeah, definitely getting more therapy would help, because the more supports you have, the better. And the more people you get to talk to, the more, in my opinion, the more weight that gets lifted off your chest. At least that's for me personally. And thank you.
I think for me, I think that time kind of heals everything, and just being a part of the survivor community is helpful, and realizing that you're not alone. I've heard a lot of good things about EMDR therapy too, but for me, healing was just through time and realizing that your voice could be used for a bigger purpose and just being able to help people. And once you realize that healing is through solidarity and talking to other survivors, I feel like you'll realize that what your purpose is actually. And I go to school for social work. So when I was, 19 years old, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. But going through this, sexual assault and everything, I learned that I wanted to be helping other people. So it kind of helped me find my purpose.
Thank you for sharing that, Jean. Nicole, do you have anything to say on the topic?
I'll add. So I mean, I definitely agree. Therapy for me it's that stepping stone. It's that starting to talk to somebody who has an unbiased opinion, and I think that is something that helped me. They don't know this person, they don't know me, but they know how to help me. I used to write, I mean, my therapist helped me in a way of writing letters to my abuser, things that I couldn't say, things that he didn't let me say, things that he didn't listen to. And those things really helped me, being able to just put that on paper, feelings that, are in here that I just needed to get out. And of course, there's medications as well. And I know that for a while there, I was on medications that I feel like there's like this stigma around mental health and medication, and that, some people don't want to be using a medication to help them feel a certain way. But at some points, if that's what we need, that's what we need. And that was something that really helped me. I would have horrible night terrors where I would just be stuck in my dream and stuck in my event, and being able to have something that helped me sleep, helped me get past that, was something that, really expanded myself to just get it out and just talk about it more. And I think that there's strength in numbers, and one person hearing one story from me was something that was, made me want to share my story more. And if I'm that one person that helps one other person share their story, then, that's all I could wish for. So I really just think that, as crazy as it sounds, talking about it is really something that helps. As much as it hurts to relive that trauma, the more you talk about it, the more that you admit to yourself that what happened to you is what happened to you, and that it wasn't okay. the more that you'll find that strength to move forward.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Nicole. I know we are pretty much out of time, but just to echo Nicole, and it might not be writing for you. It could be like Delaney painting pictures, like we always say in Shattering the Silence, getting it out some way. For me, it's writing music. I think for everybody, it's just finding some way to get it out, to Nicole's point, so it doesn't stay inside and kind of fester. And when I went to therapy too, for me personally, at the core of who I was, I didn't feel good enough. I think for a lot of survivors, we have a lot of like worthiness issues, especially because of the way society treats us. And so really finding ways to fill our cup, and for any of you watching, self-care is so incredibly important. So finding ways to do what makes your soul happy. But we do encourage you to find a lot of support. We have survivors.org through PAVE. We also have a lot of resources through there. We have over 3,500 local agencies, nonprofits, and partners that we have. So we really want you to know that you are not alone, and there is a lot of support out there for you. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from Margaret Mead, which is to just, again, uplift everyone on this Zoom and to thank our speakers. It takes a tremendous amount of courage. And here's the quote from Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you all so much for your time. Undoubtedly, your voices tonight have changed the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.